This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Here's my 30-second story with Guinness. As soon as my sister and I get home for the holidays, we don't even unpack. We head straight to our pub. The bartender already knows our order, Guinness and fries. We laugh all night, catch up with old friends, and walk home with faces sore from smiling. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. That was my 30-second story with Guinness.
Guinness Draft Stout. Please enjoy responsibly. Imported by Diageo Beer Company, USA, New York, New York.
When evaluating potential hires for your small business, it's essential you look beyond resumes. Sure, a candidate may appear impressive on paper, but understanding the person is crucial. LinkedIn, the world's largest professional network, provides a complete view of your candidate's skills, experiences, and interests. With LinkedIn's up-to-date data, you can be confident that you really know who you're hiring. Post your free job at linkedin.com/achieve. That's linkedin.com/achieve. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian Time.
Welcome to the chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 218 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL, and I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. You've heard him on the Saturday morning spread right here on the Eagles Pinpool Network. It is Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Mark, how are you doing today?
Doing well. I had a good gambling weekend. Kept the swing short, only bet on the Texans and Saints, really, 2-0. So maybe I should be doing that more often instead of betting on 8 games at once, because when I focused on my 2 good ones, we got it done. Saturday morning spread 2-0.
All right, awesome. Well, we are going to dive into the Week 17 action today, and we're going to sort of narrow our focus onto the playoff picture this week. And we sort of started that trend last week, but we are also going to do a head coach stay or go segment after we get through the game. So not going to cover every game, and a few of the games we are going to cover will be pretty brief. And then we're going to get into some head coaching personnel decisions for some of the teams that are left out in the cold. So let's dive into it. We're into that weird time of the year where the NFL's like, hey, what if we only had 8 total games on Sunday? And I'm not a fan of that, but makes it feel really choppy. But we've got multiple Thursday games, multiple Saturday games. So let's dive into it with the Thursday games first. And we'll go to Minnesota, where the Detroit Lions are officially eliminated from the playoffs. They lose to the Vikings 23-10, and this is just an all-time collapse by the Lions. Jared Goff turns it over 5 times in this game, throws 2 picks, fumbles 3 times, and for the 5th game in a row, Jahmyr Gibbs was held below 70 rushing yards. And in fact, he's been below 45 rushing yards in the last 4 games. And the Lions have lost 4 of those 5 as they stumble their way out of the playoffs. And I mean, they literally lost to Max Brosmer, who had 3 net passing yards in this game. So that's about all you need to know. This is the team who the Eagles' fate for the 2 seed is in their hands next week as they play the Bears. But I'm sure they'll be up for that game since they really want to, pour salt in the wounds of Ben Johnson, who is maybe going to be the 2 seed in the playoffs. So congratulations to the Bears. I guess, still salty about the whole Lions thing in week 2. But the last thing I'll mention here is the Lions had a 29.7% success rate in this game against the Vikings, which is their lowest of the season. Their second lowest success rate was 33.9% back in week 9 when they also faced the Vikings. Brian Flores apparently just has Jared Goff's number.
Yeah, this was embarrassing. I mean, the fact that like you said, 3 net passing yards, 9 for 16 for 51 yards, 7 sacks for 48 yards, and you lost to that team. It's just the Detroit Lions, one of the more disappointing seasons in recent memory from a team. I mean, you have a couple this year. I mean, the Chiefs, you could even include Baltimore, even though they're playing for a playoff spot. Detroit has to be up there, though. I mean, they were right there with Philly as, I think, favorites to win the NFC in terms of the gambling markets in the preseason. Even, I guess they're now 3-6 in their last 9 games. So that means they were math's not my strong suit, but they were 5-2. They were 5-2, and I think when they were 5-2, people were treating them like a real deal contender at that point. And here they are, 8-8. Pretty shocking. And obviously they've had some injuries, but everybody has some injuries. It's not like last year where you get to kind of wipe away the fact that they lost in the playoffs because they were so injured. They collapsed, and I think it has to do with the play calling.
They were 6-3 when Dan Campbell stepped in and took over play calling, and they went 2-5 after that point.
It's a great call.
So, yeah. But he did time it perfect, as we talked about back then, taking it over right before they played the Commanders.
He got a week of credit.
He had that great first game.
Yeah, he got a week of good publicity on that. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with their offensive coordinator job, because I imagine that will absolutely be a top coordinator job in the sport.
Yeah, I would think so as well. So let's go to the next Thursday game. Denver at Kansas City. Denver wins 20-13, and I don't have a ton on this game other than it was close all the way through, and I wasn't particularly impressed with the Broncos offense in this game. I mean, they got the job done. They keep the 1 seed in play. They will clinch the 1 seed with a Week 18 win against the Chargers or a New England loss to Miami in Week 18. But it's hard to feel great about Denver, who lost big to the Jaguars 2 weeks ago, and then they did not inspire confidence against a bad Chiefs team that was missing their quarterback and their top pass catcher this week. So it's hard to feel great about Denver after this 2-game stretch as they approach the playoffs.
Yeah, I haven't been high on Denver, and I still am not. I feel like there's the Bills obviously lost yesterday and didn't look good doing so and had issues, and that's kind of, I feel like a lot of people are out on the Bills, at least in the last 16 hours of discourse online and on podcasts. I still think New England and Buffalo are the class of the AFC. I still think if that matchup ever happens, that'll determine who wins the AFC. If it happens in the first round, the second round, if it doesn't happen all the way until the conference championship. And this is obviously this is about Denver, but I think Denver's in that mix because they're probably going to be the 1 seed. Buffalo, and you can disagree if I'd be curious to hear this is a little bit of a tangent, but I don't really feel worse about Buffalo after yesterday. Like I still kind of think Buffalo is right there with the top teams in the AFC. Josh had a down game, but we've seen, I mean, it's Josh Allen. Like we know he's most of the time going to show up and put up 24 plus points at a bare minimum most of the time. So I still feel better about Buffalo. Even the only difference now in that Buffalo game with how I feel about Buffalo is that being the 6 or the 7 seed is a different path than being the 5 seed and going to play Baltimore or Pittsburgh, and you have to go to Jacksonville or Houston or New England. It's a much tougher first round matchup where, if you're Buffalo coming from the wild card, we always knew they're probably going to have to win 3 straight road games to get to the Super Bowl. When you're able to sell yourself that first one's almost a little bit of a gimme, if it's Pittsburgh or Baltimore with a banged up Lamar, it's easier to predict. I'll say Buffalo goes to the Super Bowl. You're the 6th seed and you're going on the road to Jacksonville or Houston. Harder for me to say confidently, they're going to go beat Jacksonville and then New England and then Denver all on the road. I kind of needed that buffer. So this is not about the Patriots or the Bills. It's supposed to be about the Broncos. My announcement, I think, is I'm picking the Patriots to win the AFC as of right now. I know they're the 2 seed. I know they haven't played anybody. And I think it's valid to question if they're real or not, but I think that this easy schedule propped them into a really good position. And now they're in a spot where they're only going to go to Denver. The only place they can go is Denver. And we just saw Denver get, handled by Jacksonville at home. I feel pretty good about New England right now if I'm kind of landscaping how Denver, New England, and Buffalo look right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I was willing to start to believe in the Broncos 2 weeks ago, and they reminded me why I didn't believe in them for the majority of the season pretty quickly in back-to-back weeks. So I'm with you. I think it's New England, it's Buffalo, and I hope we get those two teams matching up for a third time because I think that would be an awesome game to watch.
And the other, I guess, again, I should be focusing on Denver. With Buffalo, what do you worry about with Buffalo, right? Like, you worry about a team that can punish you on the ground. Like, I think that's the bad matchup, that if Buffalo gets a team that can really run against them, that could end them. Do we think Denver, with RJ Harvey, who's like a gadget back, is going to do that? Do we think the Chargers with that O-line are going to do that? Do we think the Jags with ETN? I mean, they run pretty well. They're not like a dominant running team. They're fine. Like, Houston can't run the ball.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh can't really run the ball. New England is the one matchup where you could say maybe, but even the New England run offense, a lot of the time is a little bit more feast and famine. It's a little bit more like, let's hope we break a big one, and most of it's going to suck. New England and my takeaway from the Denver game is that I still think New England and Buffalo are the two contenders in the AFC.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And like you said, I don't think the big weakness for Buffalo really hits unless they get to a Super Bowl and they're playing Rams rushing attack that's pretty good, or
maybe a
Bears rushing attack, a 49ers that maybe looks good now all of a sudden. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot of great rushing attacks they're going to face in the AFC playoffs.
Yeah, and with the San Fran thing, it's always like you look at the run numbers and it's never as good as you think, because it's like those 3-yard passes to McCaffrey are basically runs at that point, so they count. They don't count in those stats, but I still count that as the run game.
I think it counts as like an extension of the running game, but I don't think it fully like attacks the weakness they have up the middle of their defense.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think offensively you view it as an extension of your run game, but it doesn't quite attack that defense that the Bills have, I don't think.
We got someone yelling at me for my Sixers hat in the comments over here. Adam Exploits. Thanks you.
Hey, he said he gives you credit for wearing it.
No, I know that loss the other day. The OKC loss, whatever. You lose to the Thunder, they might win 74 games, Shane. It's unbelievable, this Thunder team.
As long as they don't play the Spurs.
Yeah, the Spurs are their daddies. But I don't care about losing the Thunder. They look good for 2.5 quarters of that game, and then the Thunder went on like a 60-30 run. But the loss before that, woof, that was the worst loss of this. I can't even remember who they played now, but awful loss. But new hat for Christmas, comfy, had to throw.
I got the new stocking hat, the new Eagles stocking hat on too.
There we go.
Partially to show it off, and partially because it got really cold here last night, and I refused to turn my heat on.
A little
it's like 62
baseball.
Degrees in my house.
I'm a big beanie guy. I'm pretty much like always wearing a beanie in this time of year. But if I have a beanie while I'm podcasting, I overheat beyond belief. So no beanie rule while podcasting.
It does feel weird wearing headphones over the beanie. I had to turn him up a little higher, but anyways, let's get into the Sunday slate. Houston, who we just talked about, the Chargers. Houston wins 20-16, and the Texans scored a touchdown on their first 2 possessions, so they're up 14-0 just 6 minutes into the game, and then they only scored 6 points the rest of the game. C.J. Stroud started 4 of 4 for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hit 2 big passing touchdowns early in that game. After that, he went 12 of 24 for 102 yards and 2 interceptions. So, I mean, the Texans' offense stinks, but their defense is really good. The Chargers could not run the ball. Justin Herbert led the Chargers in rushing with 37 yards. He was sacked 5 times. He was actually sacked 3 other times that were negated by penalties, so he's still getting beat up behind this O-line. And yet, even with all of that, they could have still won if not for Cameron Dicker, who has been the best kicker in the NFL probably this season, missing an extra point and a 32-yard field goal in this game. So the Chargers kind of choked this one away. I don't really walk away from this game being impressed by Houston, though. I just still think their offense is a major liability and probably the reason they will not go far in the playoffs.
Yeah, I had my biggest bet of the year on the Texans in this game. It was my bet of the year, and I loved the matchup, the D line against the O line, and I think all of that came through. This was a game that the Texans were up 14-0 very fast. They never trailed for a minute of the game. They're up, 17-3 in the second half. Yet I feel much worse about the Texans coming out of this game. It's funny to say all of that. They cashed this bet. They got up early. They kept the lead the entire time. But yeah, if Cam Dicker, makes some kicks, it's a completely different game. This Houston offense, man, when it looks bad, it looks bad. And they started out the game with an 84-yard touchdown drive and a 72-yard touchdown drive. That had to be at least half of their yards for the game. I'm not looking at the stats right now, but it felt like the rest of the game, they never touched the efficiency that they had on those drives. I mean, yeah, just look at the rest of after those touchdowns. It goes punt, interception, punt, field goal, punt, field goal. That's the rest of the game there. So that Texans offense is not to be trusted. There's a lot of similarities with the Houston Texans and the Philadelphia Eagles. What I would say is the main difference is that the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year and have the pieces on offense that when you see the flashes, you buy it a little more that it could happen more in the playoffs. Whereas Houston, I don't see the potential for that offense.
Yeah, they don't have, which you can look at one of two ways. One is it's kind of what you expected on offense. So you maybe don't feel as down on a coaching staff there when they're just not working with much offensively as you do with the Eagles. But two, so it's a negative in that you just don't expect them to be better, but it's a positive that you feel better about the coaching staff. I don't know. I think their prognosis going into the playoff is far worse than the Eagles, even though
absolutely.
You look at the EPA charts for offense and defense, and they're basically directly on top of each other this season. You still feel like the Eagles could go on a run because they've got the pieces offensively, whereas the Texans just don't. And I don't see the way that gets better for them. The defense will have to carry them through the playoffs, and I don't see that.
And then the Chargers, I feel like before this game, there was a little bubbling. Are the Chargers back to being contenders? Could they kind of make a run? Because they had a 4-game win streak. They beat the Raiders. They beat the Eagles in overtime in a game where Jalen had to throw 4 picks to allow them to win that game. They beat the Chiefs by 3 in a game where Mahomes tears his ACL with the ball down 3. And then they beat a dead Cowboys team. I think people started to overreact a little bit to that Chargers run. I still think they're kind of like a bottom feeder wild card team who I'm probably going to pick to lose to whoever they play.
Yeah. We got a comment here from Adam asking, is Steichen's job safe? Maybe bring him back here as an OC. I've heard reporting that his job might not be safe, which is insane to me. I think he would be the rare head coach that if he gets fired, he will get another head coaching job in the same offseason, because I think every other team looking for a coach would look at that as just a totally asinine move by the Colts. I think he'd get hired again.
I totally agree. I don't think I don't think he'll ever be a coordinator again, personally. So even if he would take a year off and then jump back into head coach next year, I see that more likely. I don't think it's possible he's going to be the Eagles OC next year. Personally, I would love it, but I do not see it. We're going to go through all the coaches, though, that could be on the hot seat at the end of the podcast, and I'm going to go through who should and who will be fired. It's not always the same.
Yeah. Okay, Baltimore at Green Bay. Baltimore wins 41-24. Derrick Henry went off in this game, rushes for 216 yards and 4 touchdowns, and tanks my fantasy matchup for the final week of the year. The Packers' defense completely folded in this game. They were facing a backup quarterback in Tyler Huntley, and they allowed an 80% completion percentage and 300-plus yards on the ground. They allowed points on 7 of 8 Baltimore possessions, so awful performance by a Packers defense that has fallen off the rails. This is the 3rd straight loss for the Packers, and it wasn't Malik Willis's fault. He was awesome. 18 of 21 for 288 yards and a touchdown. He rushed for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is what I thought Malik Willis could maybe become when he was in the draft, and I had a first-round grade on him. But I mean, the Titans are such a bad organization. Like, how do you have such a bad roster as they did, and you draft Malik Willis and you never even really try it out, and instead you go with Will Levis and all that stuff? But I mean, Malik Willis is going to be a starter next season. He goes into free agency this year. I don't know where he's going to start. That'll be a fun conversation to have at some point. But I think another thing we could loop in here briefly, I'll just ask you the question. So the Eagles going into Week 18, if they win against Washington, which is almost a foregone conclusion if they play their starters, and if the Bears lose to the Lions, who will absolutely be trying to win that game, the Eagles would get the 2 seed. Otherwise, whether the Eagles lose or the Bears win, the Eagles are the 3 seed. And so my question to you is, do you risk playing starters in that scenario, knowing that win would get you the Packers in the first round instead of an NFC West team?
It's one of the hardest. Like, I am so conflicted on it. It's unbelievable. A couple weeks ago, I would have laughed at the question and been like, just take the 3 seed. Who cares? We need rest. The Packers look pretty dead, man. That defense against Tyler Huntley did not have a chance. So I think the 2 seed matters. And obviously you get Chicago. If Chicago wins their round 1 game, either way, you'd get them at home instead of in Chicago, which does make a difference. But yeah, it's really difficult. I think I would I wouldn't bring Lane back, definitely. I think you leave Lane out.
Yeah.
I'd like to get Juergens and Dickerson rest, but then it's hard to play Jalen and Saquon. And I'd like to I
have a take.
What?
You could play Brett Toth at center instead of Cam Juergens, and the offensive line would be better.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Juergens is a dead body right now. So I would like to rest those O-line guys. I would like to rest Jalen and Saquon. I think that's what I would do. I think I would rest Jalen, Saquon, and a couple of O-line guys and hope that my defense and Tanner McKee with weapons can get the job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. I just, if you could guarantee, and I don't even want the Seahawks in the first round either, even at home, because I think Darnold will fold like a lawn chair, but that defense is so good. That might be legitimately a 6-3 game, but I don't want the Rams in the first round. I don't want the 49ers in the first round, and I would far rather have the Packers than the Seahawks. So I think you play guys and go try to win. I wouldn't, like you said, I wouldn't bring Lane back, and I don't think you need to beat Washington. And maybe you try to give Tank Bigsby a heavy share of carries. I'm not even opposed to saying, hey, you play Jalen. Frankie Louvu just always scares me. But I think you go make sure you win the game, whatever that takes. And you hope the Bears go ahead and lose to the Lions.
Bears are a 1.5 point favorite against the Lions. So it's very much up in the air, which I was shocked by that number, but the analytics models still love Detroit. It's a really, really interesting hypothetical. I would like to give Tanner McKee a showcase game to try to help what he's traded for personally, but I know that shouldn't be the main.
Yeah, I mean, well, you even just think about what Tanner McKee did last year in a similar situation. Right, I forget what his numbers were, but he started. Did he start the Week 18 game, or did he just come in after like a drive?
No,
I can't remember.
I think he started it. I know he had like 270 and 2 touchdowns. I think he was like 20. I was looking at it today.
Yeah, he was 27 of 41 for 269 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that was without Saquon, without AJ, without Devontae Smith. So they were missing quite a few guys in that game, and he still went off against the Giants. So.
I'm in a group chat. There's a Discord where there's an Eagles part of it and an NFL part of it. And we're in the Eagles part of it where we always talk about what's Tanner McKee going to be traded for. And we always say, a day 2 pick, maybe a third, can be a second, conditional, something like that. And then the NFL chat clowned us and was like, oh, you guys have Eagles brain. Like nobody's trading for Tanner McKee. Real quick, let me run down the list of teams that have no idea what they're doing at quarterback next year.
I'm telling you right now that McKee is a playable starter in the NFL.
I agree.
As a guy who watches a ton of all 22 film on quarterbacks, he's good.
I agree. And even beyond knowing he's definitively good, he's absolutely shown flashes to the point where there's just listen to these. Tell me if any of these teams know what they're doing at quarterback next year. The Dolphins, who just benched Tua. The Jets, the Steelers, who Rodgers is going to retire. The Browns, the Colts with Daniel Jones with the torn Achilles.
The Colts are going to sign Malik Willis.
They might. They absolutely might.
Keep Steichen, sign Willis. Let's roll.
I like that idea. The Raiders, who are probably going to get the number 1 pick and get a quarterback, and then the Cardinals. And that's before we get to like Atlanta. Are they going to do something? Minnesota? Are they going to do something? Carolina? Like, they're not on the desperation level that those 7 teams I previously mentioned are. And let's just do the math. Like, Mendoza and Moore are going to get drafted to 2 of those spots. So then you have 5 teams. I think Mac Jones probably goes to one of those spots. So you have 4 teams. Then Kyler probably goes to one of those spots. So that's 3 teams. And then it's like Davis Mills.
Malik Willis will take one of those spots.
Malik Willis, Tanner McKee, Davis Mills. Tua. Is someone taking Tua as a starter? And
I don't
again,
think so.
This is before we get to Atlanta, Carolina, Minnesota. Is KC going to bring someone in for the first half of the year to start while Mahomes is out? Like, all those things. There are so many spots that need a quarterback. McKee's going somewhere, and I think it's going to demand like a 3rd round.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the Sunday slate here. As I said, we'll be quicker through the games. We always take some side trails here, but let's go to 2 of those teams you talked about, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Pittsburgh drops this game to Cleveland 13-6. The Browns scored 10 points on their first 2 possessions, and that was enough as their defense completely shut down the Steelers' offense. The Steelers did have a shot to win at the end with a 1st and goal from the 10-yard line, but it was a 3-yard pass and then 3 straight incompletions, and the game was over. And I thought that Pittsburgh's number 1 priority in this game was to not allow Myles Garrett to get a sack, even if it cost them the game, which sounds stupid, and you can clown that and say, well, of course they've got a better chance to win if they don't let Myles Garrett take over. Garrett enters the game 1 sack away from the single-season record. He leads the team in pressures, but he didn't get a sack. But the Steelers chipped him on 41% of pass rushing snaps. And on the 23 snaps they didn't chip him, they ran quick game or they rolled away from him 17 of 23 times. Like, it just seems so obvious. And there's a bit of Rodgers is just throwing the ball quick and super short all season, but I felt like that was magnified at times in this game. I almost wonder if they would have been better off just like giving him the sack on like the first drive and getting that out of their heads and not worrying about it anymore. But you got to have a plan for a pass rusher, especially one of Myles Garrett's magnitude. But I thought their plan was way too far in the other direction of just conservatism and get everything away from him. And it hamstrung an offense that has already struggled at times this season. And they end up dropping this game, and so now it's going to come down to that Week 18 matchup with the Ravens to see who earns the right to go lose in the wild card round of the playoffs.
Yeah, terrible loss. I mean, it can't be understated how bad this loss was, and this was the Aaron Rodgers we saw so many times last year, at times in the beginning of this year where he was clearly afraid to get hit too. A couple of those throws at the end of the game, getting batted down at the line, and there was even one throw, it looked like I think he was trying to fool the defense at the end of the game and look that way and kind of throw. That's for the audio listeners. I'm looking to my left and throwing directly in front of me, and it got batted down immediately. Like he threw it directly into someone's elbow. It is the scheme and the design. 100%, I agree with you. They were so hyper focused on Myles that they forgot to play offensive football. But it was also just Rodgers being terrified of any pressure that he got in the pocket.
Yeah. Also, just for record watch for Myles Garrett, I believe he came into Week 16 only needing a sack, and he's gone 2 straight games without a sack now. So he's going to head into a Week 18 matchup. Who do they play in Week 18? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's Cincy.
Oh, well, that should be easy. I was going to say he's going to go into a Week 18 game still needing 1 sack, but
2 good comments here from Brett Eclipse. There's a conversation to be had that the Steelers could have already won the division if Steelers sideline security was better at keeping DK away from the stands. That is true. If DK plays in this game, I think they probably win the game. Their offense looks DOA without him. And then does the loser of Steelers-Ravens get their coach fired? I think the Ravens would. I think the Steelers wouldn't.
Yeah. All right, let's keep rolling then. Jacksonville at Indianapolis. Jacksonville wins 23-17. It wasn't a convincing win, but it was a win. They had a lot of miscues. They tried a hook and ladder in the first quarter that was a fumble. Trevor Lawrence threw an interception in the end zone right before halftime on a ball he had no business ever throwing in that situation. They failed on a QB sneak attempt in the fourth quarter. So a lot of miscues for them, but overall I still thought, bonehead interception aside, Lawrence played well. He also rushed for 2 touchdowns in this game, so he became the 4th player in NFL history to have 25 or more passing touchdowns and 9 or more rushing touchdowns in a season, joining Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, and Cam Newton. So the Jaguars win. It wasn't a great win, but a win's a win.
Yeah, Trevor looks great. The rest of the team, I would say, was pretty meh in this game. Not much to say on it. Jags keep rolling. Phil Rivers, farewell.
Yep. Okay, New England at the Jets. New England wins 42-10. This game was a laugher. I'm not going to talk about it much. Just want to point out that Drake May was 19 of 21 for 256 yards and 5 touchdowns as the Patriots complete their perfect record on the road this season, 8-0. Mark, should the Patriots not want the 1 seed so they can go on the road in the playoffs?
Maybe.
I'm just saying.
I do still think Drake May should be the MVP.
Agreed.
Matt Stafford is going to win it looks like, in the odds. Drake May was awesome in this game. I know the Jets are a joke, but, man, some of the throws he can make down the field is... So I think he's the most fun guy in the league to watch right now.
Yeah. All right, Seattle at Carolina. Seattle wins 27-10. Bryce Young got beat up by Mike McDonald's defense. He ended up 14 of 24 for 54 yards and an interception. And Carolina's longest play of the day went for 11 yards, and it was a QB scramble. On the Seahawks side, Zach Charbonnet had 18 carries for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns as a runner. And Sam Darnold just continues to melt down. He turned the ball over twice with fumble and an end zone interception. Mark, Seattle is 5-1 in games where Sam Darnold has 2 or more turnovers this season. No other team in the NFL has more than 2 wins when their quarterback turns it over twice. Seattle is 5-1. And in his last 8 games, Darnold has a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and he also has 7 fumbles. So, Darnold, the Seahawks are going nowhere in the playoffs unless their defense just dominates, because Darnold is doing it again.
If Seattle's the 6th seed, they're not winning a game. If it's Philly, if it's Chicago, I don't care. I don't think Seattle's going on the road. And I know they've been really good on the road. But I don't think they're going on the road and winning a playoff game with Sam Darnold going against either Philly or Chicago. So that's my take on this game. I know this game was close for, I have to look at, when did they get it up 20-10? Yeah, 5 minutes left in the fourth. This was a 1-possession game for the entire game until the last 5 minutes, basically. So, and without Carolina doing anything, like you said, the longest play that they have was on 11 yards. So I will say, though, too, Seattle's defense, it's awesome. And I know that they're in part next to Philly in a lot of the stats. You look at the schedule for Seattle offensively, and, man, they did get a lot of easy breaks outside of their division, I'd say, comparatively to the Eagles and the defenses they've played. And the Rams did put up 37 on them last week. I know that the defenses are similarly ranked. I think the Eagles' defense is significantly better than Seattle's, or at least I trust it more to never give up 27 in a playoff game. It would really surprise me if a team put up 27 on the Eagles. And if anybody put up 27 on Seattle, I'd be like, okay, pretty good performance, but I'm not stunned, I guess, after watching the Rams.
Yeah. So, well, from talking about good defenses talking about
real quick, I had a stat I meant to say on the Browns game. I wrote it down and forgot to say. The Browns now lead the NFL in wins where they scored 10 or less points in the 20s with 6. No other team has 3.
That's kind of crazy. They have 6, and no other team has more than 3.
That's what I heard, so I wrote it down. Yeah, that is unbelievable. 6 wins with 10 or less points. That's what Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel football will get you.
Poor Myles Garrett and Jim Schwartz. All right, well, let's go to a game that had no defense. Chicago at San Francisco. last night. San Fran wins 42-38. So Brock Purdy throws a pick six on the first play of the game, and he rebounds with a touchdown drive to tie it back up. And then after trading a couple of punts, the teams alternated touchdown drives on 8 of their next 9 possessions before the 49ers finally punted in the fourth quarter, and the Bears kicked a field goal to take the lead. San Fran countered with a touchdown to go up 4, and then the Bears drive down to the 2-yard line, and they're unable to score on the final play of the game to win it. In a game like this, I question if the offenses were awesome or the defenses were terrible, or if it was a bit of both. I think in this game it was more of the defenses being terrible. It does kind of drive me crazy in online discourse. You get a game like that, and everybody's like, oh, it was such an awesome game, and I'm like, you know, there's two sides to a football game, and the defenses were atrocious in this game. Like, sure, it's exciting, but more points doesn't always equate to a better game for me, and nobody could stop anybody in this one. And so, you know, you look at stuff like Christian McCaffrey rushing for 140 yards and a touchdown, and it's like, but was Chicago's defense just that bad? Because McCaffrey has struggled as a runner this year. Brock Purdy, I thought, was really good in this game. 24 of 33 for 303 yards and 3 touchdowns with the aforementioned interception. He also rushed for 2 touchdowns, so his improvisational skills were really good. And San Fran did all this without George Kittle. And they also might get Fred Warner back for the playoffs. And, by the way, they could also be the 1 seed if they beat Seattle next week, or this week, I guess I should say, on Saturday. And so we might very well be looking at San Francisco 1 seed and also getting Fred Warner back, which would undoubtedly help their defense, which Mark was talking about a while back. So,
and do you know where the Super Bowl is?
Where is it?
San Fran. If they win this week, they will not play a road game the rest of the year, confirmed.
All right. Yeah, there you go. On the Bears side, I just mentioned Luther Burden had a really good game, 8 catches for 138 yards and a touchdown. But all eyes now turn to Saturday night, Seattle at San Francisco, and that game will decide the 1 seed.
My take on this game is that I'm not going to punish the Bears defense. I think the Bears defense is fine. I think I'd have to look at the metrics, but you could probably tell me better in terms of DVOA or EPA, whatever you want to use. They're probably somewhere between like 10 and 20. I think they're very much a kind of middling defense that is going to sway based on who they're playing. I know that they've been really lucky takeaway wise, I believe, which is probably helped.
Yeah, they have been.
It's probably helped them a lot. But I'm not going to punish Chicago's defense. What I'm going to say is I think this is what San Fran games are going to look like. If they're not in bad weather, I think it's going to be this. I think that's how good the offense is with the way Purdy's playing, with the way McCaffrey and Kittle are playing when they're out there. We'll see with Kittle, obviously, but this game obviously didn't even have him, and they put up 42. I think that the Niners are the best offense in the NFL. I trust them more than any other offense in the NFL going into the playoffs. Maybe the Rams it's them or the Rams. But putting aside the NFC South winner and putting aside the Packers, out of the other 5 NFC teams, the Niners defense is by far the worst unit on either side of the ball, offense or defense. You might disagree with the Eagles offense, but the 49ers defense is so bad, and it probably will get them at some point. The best way to prevent that, be the 1 seed with the Super Bowl in your home stadium, is probably the best way to counteract that, where you're not going to have to go on the road and get bad weather and mess up your offensive game plan in a Philadelphia or in a Chicago or in a Seattle. It's hard to understate. I forget the way I said it. I don't even know which it would be. Hard to overemphasize how important this game is for San Fran and Seattle. Like, I think you go from having, I don't know, I'm not looking at odds in front of me with probabilities, but it's like a 20% swing plus in terms of your chances to win the conference, I'd say.
Yeah, Chicago ranks 21st in defensive DVOA this season. San Fran ranks 20.
Yeah, and some of those San Fran numbers are actually, it's probably, their defense was pretty good the first month of the year when they had Bosa and Warner. It's probably bottom 3 since losing Bosa and Warner. And by the way, in that stretch, they're what are they, 8-1? I don't even know what it is, but they've been unbelievable down the stretch. What's their streak at here? This is bad radio on podcasting, but They've won 6 in a row, 6-1, 7-1. Yeah, 7-1 in the last 8.
All right. Well, there you go. Those are the playoff relevant games that we wanted to talk about. Now we're going to get briefly into some coaching stuff. We're going to go through some of these non-playoff teams and just talk about where they're at with their head coach, if we think they should keep their head coach, if they should move on in the offseason. And, of course, we'll get into more Coach Carousel stuff once we get to Black Monday next week, because Mark lives for that stuff. Mark, I'll hand it over to you here. Talk me through, let's go through some of these teams before we get out of here and what we think their coaching situation looks like.
Yeah, I'm a huge carousel nerd, and I feel like we always forget to do this. It's like we don't do this week, and then next week happens, and then it's Black Monday, and all the coaches are firing, and it's like then we're just reacting to it. So I always mean to do this and kind of forget which week I should do it. But I wrote down about 11 or 12 teams, and we're going to go through if they should or shouldn't fire their coach, and what we think will happen in reality. Obviously, Giants and Titans are already open, so we already have 2 openings there. But the first one, it might be the hardest one, honestly, for me. The Washington Commanders, Dan Quinn. Do you think he should be fired, Shane?
I didn't think he should be hired to begin with.
Same.
The Subaru Share the Love event is on from November 20th to January 2nd. During this event, Subaru donates to charities like the National Park Foundation, helping protect over 400 national parks. When you purchase or lease a new vehicle during the 2025 Subaru Share the Love event, Subaru and its retailers will make a minimum $300 donation to charity. Visit Subaru.com/share to learn more.
Can you fire a guy after going
Probably
to the
not.
conference championship? Dude, obviously this year, I would say a lot has went wrong.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is that they're franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I would probably not fire him.
Especially
Nor do I think they will.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I landed on shouldn't. You could convince me on should, but I landed on I wouldn't, and they won't. So, next one, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Todd Bowles.
Yes.
We both absolutely would. He's a weekend at Bernie's coach on the sideline right now. It looks like he's dead in the eyes. He finally messed up an offensive coordinator hire. I mean, he had done an incredible job. What was it? Canales. And was there someone in between Canales and Cohen? There was, right? Why am I blind?
No.
No? Was it Canales and then Cohen? It might have been.
I think so.
His last year was Canales' first year. Yeah, it was. There might have been someone before Canales then, is what I'm thinking. But Canales and Cohen, 2 OCs in a row that got head coaching jobs. And Bulls finally struck out this year with Josh Grizzard, or at least the offense went down the tubes. So maybe you could blame it to injury. Really, really regressed. But the biggest reason is Todd Bowles is a defensive coach on a team that's defense hasn't been like that good in a couple of years now. Have they had a top 10 defense? I would guess probably no.
Probably not. I closed that tab out, but I'll pull it back up.
I would guess probably not. So I'm going to go he should be fired, and I think he will be if they lose. I do think he'll get fired.
Yeah, I think it's probably dependent on whether they make the playoffs or not. But yeah, I will let you know where their defense ranks momentarily. It's loading, but you can go on to the next one.
Atlanta, Raheem Morris, absolutely.
Get him out.
And he will. No need to spend a lot of time on that. Same thing here, Arizona. Pew, pew, pew. Jonathan Gannon
Gone.
should be fired and will be.
Tampa's defense ranks 17th this season.
Actually better than I would have guessed. But yeah, they've been middle of the pack for like 4 straight years, it feels like, on defense. It definitely hasn't felt like they've had a great defense any year. Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel. I've been pretty steadfast on this. I do not think he should be fired.
It's tough. It plays into the culture stuff. Like, they seem to have had a terrible culture for years, and if McDaniel is the feeder into that, I would fire him. But for on-field, what they've done on the field this season, I would not fire him. But, so I guess what I can see clearly for sure, I wouldn't fire him, but I do think there's probably a fire behind all the smoke of the awful culture they've had for a few years.
I think it has more to do with the awful owner and Chris Greer, who was a GM for like 20 years on the Dolphins, which makes no sense when they've had no success. Normally, I'd say you fired the GM, let the new one hire a new head coach. I almost want McDaniel to like get a chance with a new guy and a new regime a little bit, and obviously with a new quarterback. I think it's the biggest thing is able to go out there and win a game with Quinn Ewers. Someone commented, Mark, are you sure Gannon will be fired? I believe I've seen a lot of this that they're saying that maybe Gannon won't be. I refuse to believe it. Like it's been so pathetic and embarrassing. I get that there's buzz about it. I think we're going to get to next Monday and he's going to be fired. It would shock me if not. But yeah, McDaniel. And I guess, do you think they will fire McDaniel? Because I think I'm starting to think they won't.
I don't think so. Given how they've closed the season out, I don't think they would.
Yeah, I agree. This should be a quick one. Aaron Glenn, I didn't love the hire. I'd probably, like, if they fired him, I'd be like, man, I guess that they just realized it wasn't going to work. It also would feel very unfair.
You can't hire a defensive head coach and then blame him when you trade your two best defensive players at the deadline and the team falls apart. So I think that would be scapegoating to the highest degree.
And then an interesting one. John Harbaugh, Baltimore Ravens. He's already leaking stuff about Lamar. I think it's a Lamar or Harbaugh situation at this point, and I'm going to say you should, if that's the case.
Yeah, if it's Lamar or Harbaugh, it's Lamar every time. But if that's not an interpersonal issue that can't be fixed, I would keep Harbaugh. I mean, they've been good for a lot of years. I guess if they fire him, do you promote Todd Monken?
No, I think you need
totally new.
Yeah, I think they need something different to get them over the hump. Because even when Lamar's been healthy, it hasn't been the same this year.
Yeah.
We would obviously both point to, I think, the receivers as the number one cause of the problems on offense.
For the last decade.
Unbelievable. They refuse. They absolutely refuse to do anything about it. But I'm gonna say that they will if they lose. I think it's coming to a head.
All right. We got a comment here. What about Pete Carroll? Gone. Never should have been hired in the first place. That was one of the most egregious hires for a rebuilding team to go hire a, 80-year-old head coach that flamed out in Seattle at the end. I still can't believe they hired him to begin with, much less for them to keep him another year. There's no way.
Yeah, we can just do that one now. Yeah, they will fire him, and they should. It's the only reason that you were hiring him was to bring competence that he did not come close to bringing. So, yeah. And I didn't even write this one down. Mike Tomlin, I don't think they should fire him, and I don't think they will, even if they lose.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think so either.
And then Cincinnati, we both know where we stand on this. Zach Taylor, they absolutely should fire him. I don't think they will. I think he gets to... The only way he's getting fired is if Joe Burrow asks for it. And
yeah,
he might. The comments have obviously been interesting. I do think people are reading into those comments to mean that it's about Zach Taylor. I don't think it is. I think it's about like the front office and the paying of play. Like, I don't think it has anything to do with the head coach. Like, people are saying, oh, he's going to demand Zach Taylor to be fired. I don't think Joe Burrow is like, I don't think he has a problem with Zach Taylor. He should, but I don't think he does. So, and Zach Taylor can point to the fact that when he had Flacco out there as a backup, the offense stayed pretty competent at least, but they should fire him. I don't think they will.
Yeah, we've kind of been on they should move on from Zach Taylor bandwagon for 2 or 3 years now, and they've just continued to not do it.
This is an interesting one. I want to get your take on this one first. Kevin Stefanski. What do you think? Should they fire him?
No. I mean, what do you want? What do you want the guy to do? You haven't given him a competent quarterback since Baker Mayfield, and we can relitigate Baker Mayfield, and we've done that on this show. That's maybe the biggest mistake of Stefanski's tenure in Cleveland was not making it work with Baker, and there were some issues there, and so. But that's so far in the past at this point. Like, you can't fire him for that. You haven't given him a competent quarterback. I mean, they tried the Deshaun Watson thing, and that worked out terribly, but I don't think that was on Stefanski. So I'm not sure. That feels a bit like scapegoating, too. Get your front office in order and put together a competent offensive roster.
I agree. I totally agree. The last one, there is another one, and there's a comment that we're gonna talk about at the end. I didn't initially write it down, but Indy, we talked about it earlier. Shane Steichen. I think he's a top 15 coach in the NFL, potentially even top 10, which I know that the results aren't there for. He's about 500 with his career record. I think that's amazing if you look at the fact that he's had a bottom 5 to bottom 10 quarterback the entire time he's been the head coach of the Colts. And not like some amazing roster outside of it either. So I think Shane Steichen, it would be one of the one of the worst coach firings in recent memory. If the Colts fire Shane Steichen, it might happen. I'm gonna say it won't, but if it does, shame on the.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen, but I have heard some smoke around that in some reporting. Ollie Connolly was talking about that, I think, a week or so ago. I just can't imagine the Colts being that stupid.
I have a little bit of a take on coach firing rumors. I feel like they're always wrong. I feel like people are always wrong about who's going to stay and who's going to get fired. Like, I feel like there's obviously the obvious ones, but I don't put too much stock. Like the Gannon stuff, like I said earlier, like a lot of rumors that they're going to keep Gannon. I can't. I know the Cardinals don't have fans, but I don't know how you can sell that to a fan base to keep Jonathan Gannon after this season when it was by far the worst season of his tenure. But last one, didn't have it initially written down, but Brett Eclipse left a comment, and we both have said this plenty of times. I don't think the Bills are ever winning a Super Bowl with Sean McDermott. If you lose and you're a wild card, like let's say you lose in the first 2 rounds, you have to you have to fire Sean McDermott. I don't care that they made the playoffs. I don't care that they won 11 or 12 games, whatever it is. You have to fire him. If they go out and lose to Jacksonville or Houston or in the second round in New England or Denver, whatever it is, if you make the AFC Championship, fine. You can keep him, whatever. But they won't. I think he's in. I think no matter what, he's coaching the team.
What unit does Sean McDermott come from? What's his background, Mark? Offense or defense? Defense. Buffalo's defense ranks 25th in DVOA this season.
And I think it's like 30. Isn't it like bottom 3 against the run too? We probably helped that yesterday.
Yeah, probably. I have to go back and look because I think they've been pretty bad for a few years too, by the way. I don't know, they were 11th last year, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, they were better.
I'm out on McDermott.
They were so reliant on like running the ball in defense last year, which is why it was so weird when Josh Allen won the MVP. But yeah,
they were 25th in 2023, so They've had a bottom 7 defense 2 out of the last 3 years with a defensive head coach,
and also blew their chance at a Super Bowl in 13 seconds because their defense couldn't, stop the Chiefs from going 40 yards on 2 plays or whatever it was. Yeah, so he said we all know they should fire McDermott, but will they? We don't think so.
I think McDermott is an excellent scapegoater, so I think he'll stay.
I 100% agree. I think he probably learned from Andy in that way a little bit, to be honest. But I don't think there's any other head coaches that are in the play. Like LaFleur, I think it'd be a joke if they fired LaFleur. But is there any chance that they're like, we're plateauing? I think that'd be crazy.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There was some stuff out there that the Vikings, there was like a report that the Vikings will keep Kevin O'Connell. And it's like, you didn't need to put that report out.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that report actually.
You might need to put a report out that like the Vikings will keep JJ McCarthy. That might be a report you need to put out.
When I saw, it's funny that this is like this is dumb brain stuff. When I saw the Vikings put out a report that we're keeping Kevin O'Connell, it was the first time I thought like, oh, is Kevin O'Connell on the hot seat next year? Like,
I wasn't aware that was on the table.
Yeah, it's like the first time I was like, oh, maybe they don't like Kevin O'Connell that much. It was just the opposite intent, which is very funny. But that wraps it up. That we'll go over next week how accurate we were.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Just our thoughts on, again, not all of the games, but the playoff relevant games, and then some of the coaching situations, the staffing that's going to be facing these other teams before we record next week. So we'll see where we come back on all of that. But Mark, before we get out of here, do you have any final thoughts that you want to throw out there to the people?
I forgot. I don't have a Notre Dame thing next to me, so I will just say thank you to Marcus Freeman. Don't know if you saw this, Shane. But right before we went on, Adam Schefter sent out a tweet. Marcus Freeman will not interview with the New York Giants and will be staying in South Bend, Indiana, to coach the Notre Dame Fighting Irish again next year. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for staying home. Thank you for not going to the dumpster fire organization that is the New York Giants, where I would have had to hate you forever, which would have made me so sad. So
you would have just had to hate him for 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. Well, then he would probably coach at like Michigan after that, though. So I'm very, very happy. And for the college people out there, I think Notre Dame's going to win the national title next year. CJ Carr, a lot of new guys. Love the spot Notre Dame is going into next year. And here's what I'll say. My Super Bowl right now, if San Fran wins next week, it's San Fran, New England. If Seattle wins next week, it's Eagles, Patriots 3. Where are you right now, Shane, on your Super Bowl prediction? That's your final thought.
I'll take Patriots AFC. I think I'd lean towards the Rams right now.
Yeah. It's just the wild card factor where they're probably gonna have to win 3 games on the road. But I do think they're the best team. They are the best team in the NFC, and if they were the 1 seed, they would absolutely be my.
It'd be a cool storyline if you get the top 2 MVP candidates against each other in the Super Bowl too.
It would be. That's true.
So yeah, I'll go early call right now before we see matchups. Give me Rams Patriots Super Bowl.
That would also be Rams Patriots 3. I guess they played the crappy one with Goff where he pooped his pants, and then they played the famous one where the first Brady Super Bowl. So either way.
All right, well there you have it, folks. Thank you for joining us for episode number 218 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you can catch our next episode. Drop us a 5-star rating wherever you stream your podcasts. We'll have a lot of other shows going live this week on the podcasting platforms, on YouTube, on Twitter, Birds of the Round Table tomorrow night. Kelly Green Hour will be going live sometime this week. Johnny will be doing a solo film show. Maybe I'll be able to hop on a little bit later this afternoon. So a lot of stuff coming your way. Make sure you're tuned in for all of it. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at ShaneHalfNFL. He is at Mark Henry Jr., and we will catch you guys next time.